What if 8 minutes from now you had a roadmap that keeps you employable until 2030, no matter what new framework drops or new technology drops tomorrow? Stick with me and I'll add 5 years to your dev career starting now. Everyone, I'm Elias, a senior cloud solutions architect, and tech churn is brutal. Angular to React, VPS to EC2 to serverless, Cloud Sonnet 3.7 to 4 in 2 months. I still haven't recovered from that, but certain moves keep you indispensable. I've spent 20 years in the trenches, and today I'll share 5 leverage plays that will future-proof your career, 1 per minute. At the end, I'll challenge you to act on one within 24 hours. Ready? Let's do it! Frameworks expire, patterns endure. MVC dates back to 1979, yet powers today's Swift UI, Laravel 12, and countless other modern frameworks. Event-driven architecture survived the shift from queues to Kafka to serverless. Microservices, well, they're just service-oriented architecture with better DevOps. And I'll die on this hill. See, even a simple pattern like CRUD has been reimagined in countless ways, from REST to GraphQL to gRPC. Under the hood, it's still just CRUD. Not convinced? Okay, let's take something else. Think about ChatGPT. It uses the same underlying principles of natural language processing that have been around for decades. I worked on NLP systems back in 2010, and I certainly was not the first one. It uses the same software principles like caching, latency optimization, concurrency patterns like memoization, batching, network protocols like HTTP and TCP/IP are still the backbone of its API, but then it applies them in a novel way. You know, it's not a new technology per se, it's just a new way of applying existing patterns to solve a problem. Those of you old enough to remember Ajax, it was just a different way of using HTML and JavaScript. We haven't invented a new technology, we just use them in a different way that allows us to interact with the server without reloading the page. Now, frameworks are tools, but patterns are principles, and you want to master the patterns. That's how you can adapt to any new stack. Here's your mini action for tonight. Open 3 repos you have worked on. Identify at least 1 repeating pattern. Drop it in the comments. Let's talk about this. If a certain task bores you, a script should do it. That's it. Automating menial work frees your brain for strategic features and proves that you understand leverage. You know, the developers who survive layoffs aren't just code writers, they are force multipliers. While others manually deploy 47 times a day, you have built a CI/CD pipeline. While they copy manually and paste environment configurations, you've templated everything. You want to talk real? Okay. Maybe you are a mid-level developer at a startup. You probably want to automate their database migration testing. You know, what used to take the team 3 hours every sprint now runs in like what, 15, 20 minutes? When budget cuts came, guess who stayed? The person who just gave everyone back 2 hours, 3 hours per week. That's exactly how you need to look at it. And you want to start small. Database seeding scripts to help developers when they're testing and building. Bulk file operations, introduce API health checks, or even a Slack bot that responds to common questions, you know, rather than developers having to always go to Confluence and go through the documentation. Just a simple Slack bot. Just a simple Slack bot. Why is this hard to say? Each automation is a tiny investment that will pay you compound returns. That's the key word. So here's your mini action for this one. Ask yourself, could a script do this? Before opening that CSV for the 10th time today, you know, your future self and your manager's budget approval will absolutely thank you for this. Large language models, LLM copilots, are the new IDE plugin. The difference between write me a function that does this and write a pure function with text and big O notations and details, ... is night and day outputs. Let me show you a real example. When I wanted to build me a software to help manage my coffee shop, more on that later, I could have asked ChatGPT or Claude, create a web app that tracks food costs for a coffee shop. What I did instead was spending a couple of hours researching what goes into such an app and ended up writing the following prompt. I will go through the first section for you just to show the level of details you are expected to provide in order to take full advantage of the power of LLMs. And this was my prompt: design a bulletproof food cost optimization engine for culinary businesses with the following constraints. I wanted ingredient level unit economics tracker with support for dynamic pricing, like commodity APIs. I wanted support for unit conversions. I wanted support for supplier specific historical cost analysis. I asked it to build a recipe cost calculator using directed acyclic graphs to handle ingredient substitution and byproducts allocation. Anyways, I will share with you this prompt. You can use it. Tip number 4, design for observability. Why? Because production is where careers are made or broken. Engineers who bake in logs and metrics and traces, they become the firefighters everyone calls first and leadership remembers. And this is a mechanism that allows you to build trust. You making your code transparent, so when something breaks, you can exactly see why and fix it fast. When you add a feature, you can measure its impact. You can see whether it moves the needle somewhere. So when you automate observability, you become the go-to person for production issues. You're not just a coder, you are a reliability engineer. Here's your mini action for this one. Add one trace or one structured log to a route and endpoint that you touched this week. Here's something someone told me a long time ago and stuck with me. Tech that does not move metrics is a hobby. So you want to translate features into revenue saved, into risk reduced, into revenue increased. And that's how you will get invited to strategy meetings, to promotions. Okay, promotions are a different beast. How to get them is a completely different video, but just subscribe to get notified when I push that. But here's the formula that you want to keep in mind. Feature X saves Y engineering hours quarter equals Z an amount of money. In plain English, you built something that saved the business 150 hours of development time every quarter, which is worth roughly about $45,000. No manager in their right mind will let you go after that. And you just made your case for a raise. Hey, Mr. Manager, I just saved the company $45,000 this month. That's $180,000 a year. I would like a $50,000 raise, please. No manager will say no to that. And guess what? You just gave them numbers. You just gave them proof to justify it and fight for you upstairs, and they will be happy to do that. So here's your mini action for this one. Pick one feature you worked on, one feature on the board, on your backlog. Calculate time or money it saves and share that number at the next stand-up. Be the person who speaks business, not just code. Just go and say, hey, we used to do X manually, which required us to book meetings and so on. Now we have this script, microservice, whatever, that does it in 5 minutes, which saves us 10 hours a week. And watch how your team reacts. Let me know in the comments below how it goes. I'm really curious. So let's do a quick recap here. Patterns, automation, prompts, observability, business metrics. Just choose one. These are actionable. You can act right now. You don't have to wait. And share what you did in the comments. I'll review my top 3 next week if we hit 500 likes. Now let me answer a few comments and questions from previous videos. Lewis says, it is MySQL, not MeSQL, right? It has always been like that. Well, I don't think so, because the creator of MySQL has actually 2 daughters, Me and Mariah. So the first one is MeSQL, and the second project he works on is MariahDB. Saweri Sadowski said something. I actually had to go to Google Translate to understand this one. I did not quite understand you. Well, I guess that's on me. I'll try to make myself clearer next time. Thank you for the comments. 6 minutes of absolute waste of my time. Thank you for the feedback, I guess. Maybe you could tell me what you think I could have done better next time. Can I be cloud architect if I do not know about, I guess you wanted to write AWS, because I just don't like Amazon. I prefer Azure. Oh, you can absolutely be an architect. It's just that it's not about what you like, right? It's about the clients and the customers and the needs. For some projects, you'll have to use AWS. It's just as simple as this. And you can't, you can't say I'm an architect that only work in Azure. I mean, you absolutely can. can, but that's also like a mechanic, car mechanic that says I'm a car mechanic that only works on, but that's like a car mechanic that says I only work on Ford F-150s. So you can, but you're not a generalist anymore. You're specialized in your set of skills. Like for the cats, my God, I love this guy. Thank you. Okay, let me do a few more. What languages do you speak? Arabic, French, and English. Thank you for the question. Can you do a video on the path to become a senior solutions architect? I can absolutely do that. What I offer though right now is a course that I teach live called SA Magic, where I teach you how to become a cloud solutions architect, 6 to 8 weeks live attendance, right? This is not just a video on demand, but we talk live. And with that, guys, thank you very much for watching and see you in the next one.